This is Google Earth, one of the most underrated technology. It's a 3D one-to-one recreation of our entire world. You can just explore the entire planet, finding weird stuff from around the world from just a Google Chrome tab. Today, we're going to take a look at some of the strangest anomalies and locations Google Earth has to offer. Here we go. Bear attack. So walking across this bridge in Russia, if you keep your down on the water, you can see this bear swimming up next to this bridge here. The guy in front of you is carrying a rifle, and so I think that's why they just kind of keep walking and don't really seem to be too concerned. Stickman. Here in France, you can find a real-life stickman. Google car crash. Here at this spot in Ohio, you can see this red pickup truck crash into the Google car. I'm genuinely trying to understand how this crash even happened. It's not even like a rear end, it's a direct head-on collision. Come on, what are we doing here? Swiss landslide. So out here in Switzerland, there's this nice little community tucked away in the hills. But if you jump to the current day map, you will see that a pretty big landslide just narrowly missed the town. It looks like this one little building here got crushed, but overall the town looks pretty unscathed. Here's another landslide that happened recently, but this one ended up doing quite a bit more damage. Mac, driving through this spot in Norway here, and if you set the time to 2023, you can see this Lightning McQueen semi-truck driving through. Make sure he doesn't fall asleep at the wheel. An important message. If you come to this intersection in Nigeria and turn your head over here, you can see this really funny billboard. Breaking the law is a serious crime. In Oyo State, we're really laying down the law here. The edge of the world. So off the coast of Mexico, there's this crazy mapping glitch that looks like it's the end of the world. It's at Islas de San Benito. For some reason, there's this giant trench in the ocean, and the island just falls into it for some reason. This glitch also exists on the Pro version of Google Earth, and it even lets you stand on the edge of the island and walk down the side of it. Very weird stuff. Floating cube. If you come down here in Germany, you can see this giant floating cube in the sky for some reason. If you look over there, there's another one not too far away from it. In case you were wondering, if you go into Street View, it's not in the sky anymore. It is just some weird 3D mapping glitch. This one shows up on the Pro version of Google Earth, and the program seems to think it is a physical object that you can't move through. But it won't let me put the little Street View guy on top of the block. You just phase through it and land on the ground down below. Stealth planes. So for some reason, there's this strange glitch that sometimes appears on Google Maps, and it's where you can see planes on the map, but the texture of the plane has just turned into like the texture of the surrounding Earth. There's an example of this if you go to the 2023 map data at the Louisville airport. I've seen other examples of this happening before, though. I'm not totally sure why this happens. Airplane building. If you come to this museum in Santa Monica, there is an airplane sticking out of it. What a horrific accident. Rainbow from above. Have you ever wanted to know what a rainbow looks like from above? Well, if you come out here in Belgium and bring the map over here, you can see this mapping glitch out here that kind of looks like a rainbow from above. Conch Island. So take a little look at this island right here. What do you think? Well, this island is made almost entirely out of conch shells. These islands just came about from people, of course, fishing for conch and then discarding their shells here. And they've just been building up like crazy. Ball's Pyramid. There's this little island off of Australia called Ball's Pyramid. Unfortunately, they didn't give this island 3D on Google Maps, but if you were able to see it, it would look pretty sick. And yes, this place is actually called Ball's Pyramid. I didn't believe it at first, but I checked it. That's what they call it. Brazil Rage. So driving down this street in Brazil, you can see this guy get super mad and start punching at this guy's window. I wonder what made him so mad. The guy in the car eventually just decides to drive off, which is probably the best option here. Mountain Tower. Out here in China, you can find another really strange mapping glitch. There's two of them right next to each other. On Google Earth Pro, you can stand on top of it, and it's a pretty impressive view. Twins. If you come to this one spot in Japan and you look over at this car, it almost looks like identical twins are driving in this car simultaneously. Of course, this is probably just a digital stitching image glitch, lines and circles. So if you zoom into the ocean here, you can see these strange lines and circles emerging from the ship in the water. If you drop the street view right over here, you can get another view of it too. It looks kind of strange, but I'm pretty sure this is just a salmon farming operation. In fact, that's definitely what it is. Triangles. Zooming into this forest here, you can see these strange shapes etched into these trees. It kind of looks like some sort of alien QR code, but it turns out this land is owned by a super wealthy billionaire, and this is probably just some sort of weird art thing he made. It's always sunny on the farm. So coming out here in Wyoming, there's this farm, and you can see that they've created this kind of cool design in the corn maze here. It's always sunny on the farm. Looks like a pretty good maze too. Russian plane crash. Exploring the Russian wilderness out here, if you look hard enough, you can find a crashed plane, and you can even see the trail of trees that it took out while it was crashing. I looked around online, and I actually was able to find some information on what the deal with this plane is. This plane was apparently an Antonov and 30M that was carrying food and had 7 passengers on it when it went down. Also, everybody on the plane crash did apparently survive and were evacuated. Stalin. So if you come around this spot in Moscow and you look around carefully, you can find that Joseph Stalin is still here. Man, he hasn't aged a bit. Kayla, will you marry me? So zooming in this spot out here, you can see that someone decided to propose in a pretty interesting way. I wonder if this thing actually got used or not. Pretty crazy stuff. SCP factory. So if you come out here, there's an abandoned building that someone has decided to name SCP Factory on Google Maps. And taking a look at it on a street view, it definitely kind of lives up to its namesake. I honestly have no idea what these things are. Maybe there's some kind of like defunct animatronics or part of like an old parade float or something. I have no idea though. Church lady. So coming out to this church in Washington, if you turn back the clock a little bit, you can see that on this day, this woman was praying with all her might. Kind of a cinematic scene, honestly. Earth Pond. Located on the planet Earth, you can find that there's another Earth in this pond. Some interesting stuff. Help. So out here in Los Angeles, if you zoom into this particular intersection, you can see that someone has written help into the ground alongside other words like traffic and LAPD. If you jump into Street View and take a look at this place from the side, you can see that the big help is made out of industrial pipes lined up. Now, this is not the first time someone's noticed this on Google Earth. In fact, this image has made the rounds on social media a couple times before, of course, making people pretty concerned. Concerned to the point where people were calling into the local police asking them to investigate this. It looks as though the police eventually did get into contact with the owner of this location, which is the Western Pacific Railroad, and articles that covered the situation said that they believed that there was a guy living around this area homeless and was trespassing into this area and was writing these words on the ground. It seems as though this person was probably suffering from some kind of mental illness. There is a video online from someone on X who managed to come to this area and do a little bit of investigation, and it seems as though he was able to track down the specific guy who was doing this, at least from what I can tell. If you go to the most recent mapping data, you can see that the help is gone now, so it looks like it's been cleaned up. City Life Hotel. So probably looking at this street view right here, you probably feel like this isn't anything too special, but I'm going to speed run some background information for this one. Grace Mullane was a British woman who, after graduating college, decided to take a gap year and travel the world. In 2018, she ended up in New Zealand, and while there, she matched with a guy on Tinder that she would go on a date with. This guy was a man by the name of Jesse Shane Kempson. After the date, they would return to Jesse's apartment at the City Life Hotel, and this would be the last night Grace would ever be seen alive. Later, Grace's body would be found stuffed in a suitcase, buried shortly outside of the city. Of course, Jesse Shane Kempson would later be caught, and he would end up serving life in prison. The exact way she died is pretty unfortunate, but I'll let you look that one up for yourself. Well, here on Google Maps, outside of the City Life Hotel, you can see someone who looks suspiciously like Jesse Shane Kempson. I saw this on Reddit, and at first I was a little skeptical that this was actually him, but from the looks of it, he has like the exact same tattoo, and he's wearing a watch that looks similar to the one he had. I don't know if there's a way to know with absolute certainty, but this is a pretty crazy coincidence. All right then. Thank you for viewing. Make sure to subscribe. It's free and you can always change your mind. And leave a like and comment if you appreciated it.